The views and opinions expressed are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of KTOO Public Media. This program may contain discussions that include terminology or perspectives that reflect different time periods, cultural contexts, or viewpoints that may not align with contemporary standards or expectations.
All the areas of the ship are pretty open, and sometimes it's like passengers having their own private yacht.
It's good for all faiths and all parties, and it's the kind of thing that that is not always appreciated, but it's a job stimulator and an economic stimulant to the state, not just the fun of visiting and vacationing.
Once you get aboard, put your clothes away, then you're free to do whatever you want, to have fun, whatever, and everything is provided.
Hello again, and welcome to Rain Country, a land that shows itself off from the water. I'm Scott Foster. Each year, thousands of Southeast residents and visitors take to the water to take in the sights, like 1,000 islands and 10,000 miles of shoreline, like deep fjords and flat river deltas, like shorelines with eagles and bear and deer, and like our waters with whale, porpoise, sea lion, and seals. The Alaska Marine Highway System has some 1,700 miles of regularly traveled routes through these southeast sites. In the summertime, those ferries are almost full. It's a different story for those who travel aboard in the winter.
All the areas of the ship are pretty open, and sometimes it's like passengers having their own private yacht.
In addition to having their own private yacht, wintertime users of the ferry system have some other advantages, like lower rates. Passenger fares are down 20%, cabins are 10 to 15% less, and the drivers of cars travel free. Youth groups can travel at half the normal rate. And if winter travel on the ferry is less crowded than summer for passengers, it's also less hectic for crew members.
Oh, I think the difference is in the people that are traveling. We have far fewer people traveling in the winter. And one thing that I really enjoy about working in the winter is that you have a lot more time to spend talking to people. People seem to enjoy traveling more, and we do get a lot of regular travelers. Local residents in southeastern Alaska that use the ferries a lot. So many of the towns in the wintertime, you know what kind of trouble there is flying in and out. Wrangell and Petersburg, Haines. A lot of people enjoy taking the ferry too in the wintertime because it's not real crowded. So it's a much more enjoyable time of year to travel and to work with the traveling public.
Is there a difference in the number of people that want staterooms in the winter and the summer?
No, I think all year round people want the staterooms. It's just that it's much nicer that we can accommodate everyone in the wintertime. And of course that's another reason why local people travel more, is that they know that they can get the accommodations that they want and need.
And how about the solarium in the winter? Is that used much?
Not very much. You have to be pretty hardy to be up in the solarium.
Mike Wilson is second steward on the Malaspina, and he's responsible for food and beverages. Wilson sees a different kind of passenger on the ferry in the winter.
Well, I suppose primarily we see more Alaskans traveling in the wintertime as opposed to the summer. There's also a noticeable decrease in the amount of traffic, although some weeks out here in the wintertime we'll have over 100 or 150 school kids traveling from one town to the next for meets or school activities or things like that. primarily we see a decrease in the amount of traffic, and as a result the crews are cut back and the service is curtailed a little bit too, as well as the scheduling is cut back as well.
Marine highway officials say in the summer, the ferries are usually 80% full. In the winter, that figure drops to between 30 and 40%. If the generally fewer passengers in the winter mean a more relaxed trip for some crew members, it's not the same for the captain.
Well, there's a lot of things that are different to the people running the ships, especially the navigation. We run into high winds and cold weather, and here's the crew is have to wear real heavy weather and get out in the weather, especially at Skagway. We get north winds there sometimes when the temperature is down below zero and the chill factor is way down 35 or 40 below, and it's a little bit tough sometimes. We've had north winds up to 100 knots in Lynn Canal, to where our normal running time from Auk Bay to Haines is 4 hours and 15 minutes, and it has taken us 10.5 hours. This only happened to me several times, but it was blowing so hard the ship would pound, and you was taking green water over the bow, and your wheelhouse was all froze up. You couldn't see out because it would turn the ice the minute the water hits the ship, you see. So, but this is a very rare occasion. One of the big problems is wrangle narrows and Sturgis narrows, and about the worst conditions in these narrows are real heavy snowstorms. They're actually worse than fog. And if you start through the narrows and you get hit by one of these snowstorms, you can't turn around and go back out. You have to keep going. And there's times when this has happened where you can't see from one navigation light to another, and I have been in there on rare occasions when I couldn't see a navigation light as it went. The ship went right alongside of it, but this is not very common.
Although passengers and most crew members are inside on those bad winter days, that's not always the case. Sometimes bad weather or narrow channels require crew members to stand bow watch.
Got freezing rain out there, that's pretty miserable to stand in. Snow, that's pretty bad.
You wish you were inside the whole time.
Yeah, you're counting the seconds until your relief shows up and gets you out of there. But they don't usually leave you out there for so long that you're frostbitten by the time you get in. But there are people that do come out and relieve you.
It should be noted that there is plenty of calm weather during winter months. However, when the bad weather does hit, Captain Reeser responds.
We try to make it as easy as we can. These ships are actually not sea ships. They're built for inside waters, and you get out in the big swells. The way the hull is built, they'll hammer and pound and scare the passengers. We don't want that to happen. We're in no danger, but it's not very comfortable. So we do try to take a route that is more comfortable for the passengers.
The Alaska Marine Highway System began in 1963 with the Malaspina, Taku, and Matanuska. Over the years, 4 other ships have been added. In addition to the 1,800 miles of routes in Southeast, the ferry system travels about the same distance in South Central, primarily in Prince William Sound to Seward, Homer, Kodiak, and then periodically out the Aleutian chain. While there have been changes over the years, some traditions remain, particularly during winter travel on the state ferry system.
I think you see a lot more of the older traditional feeling of the ferry system. Alaskans having a relaxing trip from as opposed to the summertime when there's a lot of tourists. It's hard to get a good place to see and to see things. I think it's a lot more relaxed atmosphere. There's no doubt about that.
I enjoy the passengers, and in the summertime you don't have a lot of time to spend with them, and there are far fewer problems. There's just a lot more problems in the summertime when there's lots and lots of people standing in line and all competing for areas of the vessel and services, and this time of year we don't have that problem.
The sights of Southeast and the rest of Alaska each year attract hundreds of thousands of visitors. The resulting tourism industry produces income and jobs. The fact is that every state and many foreign countries are also vying to attract tourists and the resulting boost to the local economy. In Alaska, many individuals and companies are working hard to promote various Alaska destinations. And there seems to be one man running a little faster than most to sell Alaska attractions.
Catching up with Don Dickey is not an easy assignment. Dickey travels a lot, meeting a schedule here or catching a plane there, but then that's not unusual for someone who promotes Alaskan travel. Dickey knows the kind of people who travel because he's long worked in tourist-related activities, like spending 33 years as a Chamber of Commerce executive in California and Fairbanks, 22 of those as chief of Alaska's State Chamber of Commerce. He's even survived 4 political administrations as chairman of the Governor's Tourism Advisory Board.
That proves seriously that it's kind of nonpartisan, it's good for all faiths and all parties, and it's the kind of thing that that is not always appreciated, but it's a job stimulator and an economic stimulant to the state, not just the fun of visiting and vacationing.
But promoting visiting and vacationing forms the largest part of tourism's media budget. So how does Dickey think promoting Alaska should be done?
I think one of the things is that you have to say it, repeat it, and repeat it again by many modes. And one of the things we were able to do because of funding, and that's to go not only into major magazines as we have, the National Geographic, Sunsets, Smithsonian, whatever, a ream of those, but to go into national television in the last 3 years, and we're into major special Sunday sections of newspapers across the country, from Florida to Los Angeles to New York, and all of those things put together, in addition to the trade shows we're involved in and going out telling Alaska's story. I think all of those are creating an awareness of and a desire to visit our state. This industry has been one that almost every year since statehood has grown at a 7 to 10% average rate of growth, sometimes up to more than that, 12 to 15%. So it's been a real producer of jobs and economic stimulant.
Dickey recognizes the conflict of promoting tourism while protecting Alaska's environment.
One of the attractions of Alaska is its uniqueness is people expect the outdoors. They don't want to be crowded or hurried. It's a different kind of a vacation. They're trying to get away from the rat race, no matter how nicely you phrase that. They're trying to get away from it and rediscover maybe themselves. And I think we have to keep a fine balance, that the crowd who comes does not kill that glow, that uniqueness which we all enjoy.
While Dickey isn't sure how to strike that delicate balance between people and ecology, he has an idea.
We're going to have to develop, and they are developing by themselves, new attractions. In other words, so people don't just go back to the same. Glacier Bay, we know, is extremely popular, the national parks. Misty Fjords has come on now, so here's another string on our bow to attract people at a different area down by Ketchikan. Everybody, I don't say bottlenecks, but all kind of comes to the center in Denali National Park to see Mount McKinley and the wildlife there. And I in no way suggest we discourage that. But I think the way you break that path, that heavy beaten path in one area, is to develop other attractions, and the state's doing that. Different things, be it in a Kodiak or a Kenai or up in the Arctic, a Nome or a Kotzebue or Barrow, wherever.
The Division of Tourism operates offices in Germany and Japan. Dickey's excited about an increased effort to attract overseas visitors.
For a number of years, we've known 1.5 million people transit through the Anchorage International Airport. But we also know that a very small amount of those really stop, stay, and spend in our state.
Southeast is becoming more aware of tourism. Dickey says that's obvious by a new Southeast Tourism Council for promoting the area's smaller communities. There are hotel expansions in Juneau and Ketchikan and several new tour ships visiting the region. Figures and details aside, here's what Dickey really likes about his work.
I think the people. Always that the people that come in contact with our doers, our goers, are people who are not concerned as much about the hurdles that they're going to face, but how they're going to get over them. They're positive thinkers for the most part in the visitor industry. They're innovative people. They have to be to compete. And also the uniqueness is that although they all compete savagely and very close, it's a very tight-knit fraternity inside, that they all have respect for the other person, that they want to see them succeed, And so I guess it's working with the people, which is usually the key to most success stories.
In water-accessible Southeast, many of our summer visitors get their impressions and images of our land from the deck of a cruise ship. For those of us who live here year-round, it's not unusual to see these large ocean-going ships coming into our harbors, tying up at our docks and disgorging 1,000 passengers. It is, however, a bit more unusual for us locals to see the inside of these ships, meet the people who run them, and the people who pay to ride on them.
The original Love Boat no longer sails here, but every summer about 18 versions of the same theme grace southeastern waters. Our cruise began in Prince Rupert, British Columbia on the TSS Fair Sky. While we had only 24 hours aboard this floating 5-star hotel, it was enough to understand why some people become cruise addicts. How many cruises have you been on?
18. This will be the 18th.
What's the longest one you've ever been on?
34 days, transatlantic to Italy, and then a 10-day Greek island cruise, and then back home. But in the States, the longest has been 20 days, when we did Panama Canal on the Fair Sea.
Virginia and Jim Horace go on a cruise nearly every year. Once you take one, they say, you're hooked.
It's a total vacation, and everything is, there's no living out of a suitcase. Once you get aboard, put your clothes away, then you're free to do whatever you want to, have fun, whatever, and everything is provided. Entertainment, fine restaurants, I mean, it's just, and they're taking you to places where you can do other things. Can't compare.
The Fair Sky is one of the largest vessels to sail southeast, with every amenity available in a small city. It cost $150 million to build. Captain Rodolfo Potenzoni spent 2 years on dry land overseeing construction. That's tough duty, he says, for a ship's captain, but it paid off. He now commands the Fair Sky.
But of course, it's a responsibility, you know. I mean, you have 1,200 passengers, 550 crew members, and you are a certain way, you are responsible of what, so you never relax completely. I never, when I'm on the ship, when I go retire, I go to bed, I never sleep very sound, you know.
To make a cruise successful, Potenzoni says, you must make the passengers happy. And who makes up such a passenger list? Cruise director Alan Scott says there's no typical cruiser, but
the people who travel on ships today, especially on long cruises, 2 weeks, and especially to a cooler section of the world, Alaska, are usually a little older than the people who take a cruise to the Mediterranean or the Caribbean or Mexico, things of that nature. So from that standpoint, our passengers here to Alaska are a little bit older, but they have a tremendous search for adventure. They're very keen, very alert, wonderful people. They really are. I don't know that they're typical or not, though. When you have 1,100 people on board a ship, obviously you're going to run into a bad apple. But wow, they are just great people on the ships, and that's another reason why I like it out here.
Alaska is one of 3 major ports in the world to offer short luxury cruises from 7 to 14 days. Over 100,000 visitors come to our state via cruise ship every year. Every ship anchors in Juneau. In fact, the capital city has become the most important cruise port in Alaska, according to Cunard General Manager Ellen Bennell. His statistics indicate the average passenger spends a total of $1,000 in the various Alaskan ports of call.
2,000 people from 3 ships can be landed suddenly on your doorstep. What are you going to do with them? You're going to have all the coaches are going to be arranged. They're going to have all the tours and the guides and the hotels and the shops. They're all going to be prepared to have this influx of people arriving on their doorstep. And they're all spending, they're all buying.
Cunard Line surveys show 41% of the passengers cruising to Alaska for the first time will return to our state the same way.
It is unique in all the states of America. You're part of nature, you're really living it. You're right there. And plus the ship being your floating hotel, your floatel, with all the comforts of the ship. It fits in, it's a very good package.
Just how much influence has the television series Love Boat had on the sailing boom? Well, ask the captain of the real Love Boat, the Island Princess.
It certainly had a tremendous impact on Princess, and I think it had a tremendous impact on cruising, because there's no doubt about it. I think cruising gives you the type of holiday that everybody wants to have.
There's no question it has to have had a big plus input on the cruise business, because so many people are of the opinion that, well, cruising is just, you've seen it in the movies, and so cruising is for very, very wealthy and for very, very old, and nothing could be farther from the truth. As a matter of fact, we find today that about 40% of first-time passengers are under the age of 35. That's got to be because they've seen this thing on the television.
While the television series may bring more people aboard, captains, cruise directors, and passengers will tell you Love Boat is not the real thing.
It is not just a love boat. The cruise director does not walk around with a clipboard in his hand and just stand and introduce the star who's going to perform this evening. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of wonderful work. I put in long hours and long days. I don't think it's entirely because I'm inefficient and not organized. I think it's because I really like people, I really want to be with them, and I do want to make the Sitmar experience the best vacation they've ever had.
There are several aspects of Love Boat missing on an Alaska cruise. For example, you seldom see bathing beauties hanging around the pool. Instead, they're bundled in coats and blankets.
When the water gets up to 90 degrees, then I'll go in.
Of course, if you really want to get on television,
Do you want to...
How was it?
It was cool.
You know, you didn't have to do it just to be on television.
I didn't? Why did I do it then? I thought someone said I was going to win a free cruise. No?
No.
This is it?
Yes, it is, and he didn't win any prizes for his swim.
It's nice. How cold is it? 32 degrees?
No, 75 degrees.
75?
Yeah.
It's going to be 32.
But most of the passengers on the Canada-Alaska cruise don't need such diversion. They're engrossed in the beautiful scenery the glaciers and shorelines provide, anticipating the call of the last frontier.
For me, this is the way to see Southeast.
I was here in 1936 on the Princess Charlotte. Came up on that ship. I don't think it's in existence anymore, but the place sure has changed. Never recognize it. It's beautiful.
Oh, Alaska's a wonderful country. A lot of beauty, and it's, I think it's a very exciting country. I've been here before, and each time I see a lot of things that I haven't seen before, and met a lot of interesting people, too, especially on the cruise like this one.
After 40 years of commanding cruise ships around the world, Sitmar Fleet Commodore Giuseppe Cortini would rather sail to Alaska than anywhere else.
I like to keep back in Alaska. Of course, there are many other places that I like around the world. I have a beautiful souvenir. I've been around the world for almost 40 years, always cruising, and I think there are a few places that I haven't visited. I have admitted that some place still attract me very much. But in Alaska, it's not only the question to visit. It's something for me like
to be born again.
We have arrived in Juneau, the capital of the great state of Alaska. We'd like to remind all of our passengers that the TSS Fair Sky sails promptly for Seward, Alaska at 7 p.m. All passengers should be on board at least 15 minutes before departure. The ship has been cleared by the local authorities, and passengers wishing to go ashore may do so. Have a great day here in Juneau, Alaska.
From the uncrowded state ferries in the winter to the crowded cruise ships in the summer, to a man working hard to fill every ship, plane, and car with visitors, it's all part of life in picturesque Southeast. We'll be back again next week with another installment on our Rain Country Journal, and hopefully you'll join us then. I'm Scott Foster. Have a good day.